Shalom, holy adepts and holy initiates. I must first begin this video by stating that in order to fully understand and comprehend this entire video, it is prerequisite that you have watched my entire series on metempsychosis, which up to this point would be parts 1 through 6. For this video builds upon much of the knowledge and wisdom contained in this series. So with that said, I begin this video by giving a slight introduction into some of the key points that are requisite for this teaching. So in my previous videos, I have given the scriptural seals for these points that I am now going to bring up. So if you don't know the scriptural seals or proofs for these points, then I, suggest you go and rewatch my series. That is the other parts that I have uploaded on metempsychosis. So I begin by stating some key relevant points here, in regards to metempsychosis that need to be understood for this video, which is one, right? We should now at this point understand and know that the dove is an occult symbol that represents the spirit or the soul of man. And that, reincarnation essentially is a three-strike based system, right? There are principally two major laws that govern metempsychosis, right? In this respect, we are concerned with the major law of metempsychosis that deals with the judgment of unholy men, okay? Because there are, metempsychosis is a doctrine that has been corrupted and perverted by many other theosophies who don't have the true and correct understanding of it. So essentially, as this great law of reincarnation relates to men who have failed their divine missions, essentially it is a three-strike based system, meaning that every Israelite is essentially given 3 strikes. Okay. However, there is a caveat that we will there is a caveat to this that I will soon reveal here as we proceed here shortly. Now, so essentially understanding this, that it is a 3-strike based system, right? If you hit strike 3 and then you're out, right? Just like in baseball, 3 strikes and you're out, and then the consequences then is that you will, go straight to hell and burn there for a very long time, meaning you're going to have to, do out your punishment in hell, and it's not going to be pretty, to say the least. So now that we have those symbols, right, understanding that Noah's Ark, right, is a parable, right? The story of Noah's Ark is a lot of Kabbalistic parables that are contained within this narrative of Noah. And so now that we know, right, that we have the dove covered, right, then we need to understand, well, what does the ark represent, right? Because we have a few occult symbols here in this parable, right? We have the dove, the raven, and the ark, right? So we know what the dove represents in this parable. It represents the solar spirit of man. What does the ark represent? Well, to this, I'm going to take us all the way back to the most initiated Kabbalist that we have on record from the generation of Yeshua HaMashiach, who is none other than Philon Judaeus, okay? Now, this extremely highly initiated Kabbalistic grandmaster, okay, states in his treatise entitled Question and Answers on Genesis in Book 2, line 1, commenting and speaking on, Sefer Bereshith, chapter 6, verse 14, he states, what is the construction of the Ark of Noah? If anyone wishes to examine the ark more physically, he will find the construction of the human body. Okay, so right there, he's revealing to us one of the keys to decoding this occult, symbol, which is the ark. On one level of Kabbalistic exegesis, it represents the body. Okay, now he goes on and giving a full mathematical / biological disquisition, on the construction of the body. Okay. I say mathematical because it is a highly mathematical and biological disquisition where the golden ratio does come up in his writings, thus proof that our race, the holy Israelite race, has always been the wisest and most knowledgeable of all the races in the entire world. Okay, understand that we Jews already had advanced mathematical knowledge. We already knew all of the properties of the golden ratio thousands of years before it was discovered by the Goyim. Okay, but of course, this is a discussion for another time. So moving on, now we need to ask, what does the raven symbolize? Well, the raven represents the defiled spirit or soul, right? If the dove represents, an intermediate or good soul or spirit, okay, then logically, right, we can say the raven represents a defiled or unclean spirit or soul, right? We have the dove is white, the raven is black, right? These are very basic archetypes. So in contradistinction to the dove, then, the raven then would represent a soul or spirit that has sinned very egregiously throughout his life, okay? And so the first part of the parable then concerns, Noah sending out the raven, right? And then the Torah goes on to state that the raven, once Noah sent out the raven, it didn't return to him. It didn't return back into the ark, right? So again, we have the raven in the ark, which represents the soul or spirit of man in the body, okay? This spirit or soul, which is the raven, is very unclean, very defiled, because it has sinned very greatly throughout its entire life, okay? And so when this raven leaves the ark, which represents its soul leaving the body, it does not come back. What does that mean? It means that this soul is never coming back to the body because it's going straight to hell, and it's going to be burning in hell for a very long time, if not possibly destroyed in hell, okay? And that's why the raven never comes back to the ark. He's not given, because this soul is so unclean and so defiled. Mercy is not granted to it, in order to reincarnate and redeem his soul. He's not allowed the opportunity, right? The raven, the unclean soul, is not allowed the opportunity to redeem his soul. He's not given a second or third chance, so he goes straight to hell. Okay, so that's what that first part of the parable represents. Now we proceed to the second part of the parable, which deals with the dove being sent out, a number of times from the ark, right? Again, the second part of the parable alludes to 3 maximum reincarnations, which is what we find throughout the Holy Scriptures, right? How many times, right, is the dove sent out from the ark? It is sent out 3 times, representing the maximum number of times a soul has if it is clean enough to redeem its soul. Okay? So then let us go to the first time it's sent out. The first incarnation is the first time, represents the first time the dove is sent out from the body. Okay? Right? What happens in the first incarnation? The dove finds no rest, okay, and return, and as a result of finding no rest, returns back to the body. Okay, so again, this first part of the parable then means that the spirit, in its first incarnation, right, does not fulfill its divine mission. It's holy, right? It's clean. It's a clean, holy soul, meaning that throughout its life, it lived a good life and probably kept most of the commandments of the Torah, etc. But it didn't fulfill its divine mission, and so as a result of this, it finds no rest after it leaves the body. It probably does sometime in Sheol, okay? So it's then allowed a second chance. That second chance is the dove returning back to the ark or to the body, okay? So what happens on the second reincarnation? When it then reincarnates a second time, the Torah then goes on to state that the dove brings back an olive branch, okay? Then we need to understand Kabbalistically that the olive branch represents oil, because it is the oil of olives that is used to kindle lamps, which signifies light, right? Which is a good thing, right? Meaning it brings back light, holy light, okay? Meaning that this is Kabbalistic, these are Kabbalistic code words and expressions signifying that it succeeded in its holy mission, okay? Now, instead of not finding any rest vis-a-vis it not completing its divine mission, now it brings back an olive branch, okay? Meaning now it's completed its work, its holy mission, okay? So it comes back a second time, and then it actually atones for its souls and corrects where he corrects what he screwed up in his previous life, okay? Then it's sent out a third time, and then the Torah goes on to state that when it's sent out the third time, it doesn't come back, right? Why doesn't it come back? Well, because on its second incarnation or in its reincarnation, it succeeded, it atoned and redeemed it. So now, the third time it goes to heaven. That means that after the second incarnation, the dove then goes to heaven and doesn't come back. There's no need to come back to the body. He did his time in the body. He screwed up. He got a second chance. He ended up atoning for his mistakes and sins. And so now he gets to go back to heaven and doesn't have to come back to the body. Okay? So this is what the second part of the parable represents. Okay? And so there you have it. You have some extremely highly, esoteric Kabbalistic exegesis explaining this highly mystical Kabbalistic parable of the Ark of Noah, right? And so if you have eyes to see and ears to hear, then this will all but more than make sense to you. Okay? So there you have it.